All right, there we go. All right, so we'll get started today. Your bell work this afternoon was, where did the Renaissance begin? So where did it start? And then why did it start there? So yesterday we talked about the Renaissance and why it began. We talked about the Crusades influencing it and the Black Death and all the problems that had kind of caused the Renaissance to take place and what the Renaissance was. What was the Renaissance, just to begin with? What was it? Nobody remembers? Rebirth of what? Art, literature, thought, political, philosophy, all those different things. So that rebirth happened somewhere. Where was the place that it started? It, of course, spread, but where did it start? Italy, and specifically where in Italy? So what? You probably did say it right. I don't know what you said. The math throws us all off of what we say, but did you say the cities? Okay, what did you say? Never mind, she says. That's okay. It was in the Italian cities, the Florence and Genoa, Venice, Milan, all those places is where this began. But why did it begin in Italy? There was one main reason why it began in Italy. It was the center of something, and it is kind of the center of Europe, but what? Trade routes, yes. The trade was going through there, and so because trade was going through there, they made a lot of what? Money. They made a lot of money, and then money caused them to be, or they had money, so they spent it on art, and next thing you know, the Renaissance is booming there. And we, like I said, that's this rebirth of art. It was renewing of art. But we will finish these notes up today as quickly as we possibly can, so you have time on your assignment. If you, obviously, most of you were here yesterday, so you have the graphic organizer. You need to not re-download it. You just need to go find it in your Google Drive and pull that up. So that may be what you need to be doing right now. And we'll start when we talk about the Renaissance art. Yesterday we left off talking about the difference between Renaissance art, being that it was focused on the church, or not Renaissance art, medieval art was focused on the church. And the change happened as the Renaissance art was more focused on humans and the things that they did. Focused on Christianity and worldly things. And so art changed during the Renaissance, and it was a big ordeal. I say a big ordeal. It was significant because it was a move away from God, but they didn't forget about God. They just stopped focusing on God. They focused more on the things of this earth. And that idea can go all the way back to Petrarch with humanism. Humanism is the celebration of what? Humans and the things that we do. And so these people started doing that more and more. First person we're going to talk about is Michelangelo. That did not sound good. It wasn't. Michelangelo was born in 1475 in a small town near Florence. He was a painter, a poet, an architect, and a sculptor. Do any of those jobs have anything to do with the religion? No. Again, it shows the Renaissance theme of humanism in their focus. They were focused on being good at life, good at achieving things in this life. And so they did. He is noted for using realism in his paintings, making things very realistic. Making things very realistic. Each person, the detail with them is unique. And he was very famous. He was commissioned by the Medici family who lived in Florence. They were very powerful, had a lot of money, paid him to make sculptures of things. He came from a family of moderate means and was recognized in his own time, which is unique for most people, as being very, very artistic. His famous works are the David and the Sistine Chapel. And as you can see on your notes, your graphic organizer there, you've got some pictures, and that you'll be wanting to make sure you get the names of those for your test. Everybody good? No? Yeah. Everybody? So the first one we're going to look at is the David. Again, this is like a 12, I can't remember the exact size of the David. It is huge. Was at one point in time one gigantic piece of marble. But look at the details of this sculpture. That was at one point in time one big slab of marble. And all you need is just the fact that it was completed by Michelangelo and its name. It is 5.17 meters, so roughly about 15 to 16 feet, maybe 17 feet tall. It was all one piece of marble. It took that much time to chisel that out, each one. But notice the detail. Notice the distinctiveness of each characteristic of his face, of the sling on his shoulder. But it also, David was a human. He wasn't a god. He wasn't this immortal being. He was not Jesus. He was a human, and it focuses on him being there. His other work was the Sistine Chapel. He painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel a year after creating the David. Pope Julius II, when the Pope summons you, you go. It's the Pope. And so he summons him to Rome, and he works on his most famous project, the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Here he painted scenes from the Bible in the royal palace of the Vatican. Not the palace, but the chapel of the palace of the Vatican. And here he did the back wall, which is the Last Judgment. It's where God judges the world. The top has the creation scene and many others throughout it. And he was on scaffolds. They built it up. He painted on his back, painted all this. It's a fresco style, so it's like a plaster. You know what popcorn ceilings are? Imagine that, but obviously a little bit more smooth. That's what this painting was. It was made of those that kind of plaster type material, and they make sure to maintain this. It's just known for its detail. The subjects are not unrealistic. They have very much human characteristics, but they have so much distinctiveness about each and every one. Thousands of faces and distinct characteristics for each one of them. Again, focusing on the individualism of humans. Next guy we're going to talk about is, sorry, it was Sistine Chapel. I think everybody got that. Is Leonardo da Vinci. And his most famous work, and you've probably seen this before, is the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is considered priceless. At one point in time, it was stolen from the Louvre, and a fake sat on display for a while. They got it back, and now she's on display again. This is the Vitruvian Man, another work by Da Vinci, showing the just proportionality of the human body, putting it as an example of just what the human body should look like and things of that sort. He was considered a Renaissance man. He was born in 1452, and lived till 1519. He was a painter, sculptor, architect, and inventor, military engineer, and draftsman. the epitome of a Renaissance man. He had a very curious mind and a keen intellect. He liked to know how things work, which greatly informed his work, and he's influenced many people since then. He used an interesting technique in his paintings called perspective. If you notice in the Mona Lisa, it's like you could step into it with her. There's background to it. It's like something could be going on behind her. It's almost 3D. It's not. It's 2D picture, but it almost has that sense, and that's what they call perspective. I noticed in some of the work from the terms yesterday, people put perspective as a point of view, and I guess it is, but in Renaissance terms, it was an art technique used to show depth in their paintings and pictures. But Da Vinci exemplified these characteristics and values of the Renaissance. He was good at everything. He was good at all these things that he did, and all of them, none of them, or all of them do not have anything to do with religion. There's no hint of religion in any of his work. It's not that he wasn't godly. I wouldn't say his work, but he was not looking to be a priest. He was looking to be good at things here, celebrating his individualism, celebrating human achievement. Everybody good? Some of his work, you can see in his notebooks, he worked with the human body, trying to figure out how it worked together and things of that sort. He also did self-portraits, and then just the detail in some of his drawings. And like I said, he wasn't just good at one thing, he was good at multiple things. We would consider a Renaissance man today being somebody probably that was really smart, maybe good with technology, maybe athletic, probably has a bunch of money, maybe speaks a bunch of languages. That would be what we would consider a Renaissance man today. Maybe plays an instrument. These guys were good at all their stuff as well, and they were considered Renaissance men in their time. He was an inventor. He invented something something similar to what we would think of as a tank. He had this gigantic crossbow. It's like a battering ram. I believe that it was proposed that it could shoot something like a telephone pole. You know how big a telephone pole is. And so it's pretty interesting there. Yeah, this one looks like a helicopter, and it probably is a primitive version of it, but probably has influenced those ideas in modern times. And then, you know, you have this glider, which we have people that hang glide and things like that all the time, very similar to that. So he did invent stuff as well. His other most famous work, and the one that you need to note on your sheet, is The Last Supper. He completed it in 1498. And it is definitely known for its use of perspective. It's obviously the Last Supper. It's a fresco like the Sistine Chapel, so it's kind of falling apart. They actually have to work really hard to maintain it, and they're worried that it will not last. But it has depth. It's like you could almost be in the room with Jesus and the disciples, and all of your attention is drawn towards Jesus in the middle of the room. It's something called vanishing point. It's where all of the lines of color intersect at this main point right here, and the main point is obviously Jesus. So this use of perspective gives depth to the room, gives it a 3D feel. The last guy we're going to talk about is Raphael. And if you didn't notice, all these guys are the Ninja Turtles. The only one we're not going to talk about is Donatello. No personal reason, just don't. But you know, all the Ninja Turtles also have the same names as these famous Renaissance artists. Raphael was an architect and a painter. He painted a series of Madonnas, or the Mary and Child, in Rome. And his paintings kind of gave him some fame. And next thing you know, he was being commissioned to paint for the Pope in the Vatican. And he's famous for his use of perspective. He lived from 1483 to 1520. His most famous painting, besides his Madonnas, was his fresco, his series of frescoes And in that series of frescoes, he had the School of Athens. In the School of Athens, he has just a masterful work of perspective. Shows depth, but also interjects some of the Renaissance ideals and values into the painting. I know that sounds like, really? I'll show you. Is everybody good? So here's this School of Athens. It was finished in 1510 to 1511. He is actually painted himself into the painting. He's over there to the right. He has Michelangelo right down center in the front, and he painted Da Vinci as Plato in the middle. You can see the depth to this. Again, it's almost like you could walk into this painting and stand next to these people. The proportionality of things, how it looks like the archways go on deeper behind them, the vanishing point being somewhere in the middle of this, draws your eyes to the people. And so the School of Athens shows off perspective very much. Also, like I said, he kind of interjected Renaissance ideals into this as well. Aristotle is or Plato is the old way of thinking. He's kind of got this old sense of the ideal realm or the above, focusing on God and heaven and those things. And the shift and change to more modern thinking or more Renaissance thinking was Aristotle, as he looks to the earth and the here and now. So there was that direct change in how people thought during the Renaissance, and it is shown in the School of Athens as a way of just putting their values into their work. Any questions about those three artists and their most famous works of art? Nope? All right. The next thing you need to do is go to Schoology. And you'll make a copy of the first link there. Excuse me. Click the link that's provided to access the viewing guide. Watch the video, which is this one. And you can highlight the correct answers on the Google Doc, and then you download it as a PDF and submit it back here like a few of these people have already done. After you do that, you'll work on the Machiavelli survey, which I've already created a video for. And you'll download that by clicking this link, and we'll go over the instructions together here in class. Those of you watching this video, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. That's so awkward.